Mr. Speaker. We will go to the next senator, and that is Senator Runner.
Thank you, Madam President. Today I rise and I have about 10 points to make, but I am so discouraged with the process here. Last week I think it was a 1,000-page bill, and now, as Senator Harman said, it's a 662-page bill that we really as a staff, our staff even didn't have in the last week. There is a correlation between prison population and crime on the street. In 1980, Governor Brown's first term in office, there were only 25,000 inmates in state prison. There were, however, more murders, rapes, robberies, aggravated assaults, burglaries, and car thefts than there were in 2009, even though the population of California had grown by 13 million people. There were more rapes in 1980 than any other year in record. Under AB 109, California's total inmate population would decline. It's about 162,000 right now, to 122,000, a total last seen in 1993, before the adoption of 3 strikes. That's a release of nearly 40,000 inmates. While in 93 incarceration levels may be desirable, in 1993 crime levels are not. There were 4,000 California homicides in 93, more than twice as many in 2009 at 1972. If AB 109 is implemented, California's prison incarceration rate will drop from 16th to 37th among the states, below Wyoming, Alaska, and Hawaii. AB 109 is a vast social experiment which will bring crime and grief to communities throughout California. In a related matter and of great personal interest to me, AB 109 would permit offenders convicted of certain sex offenses to be released without state parole. These offenses include sexual battery, lewd and lascivious conduct with a child 14 or over, and production of child pornography. As a consequence of such offenders would not be subject to GPS monitoring, which is a condition of state parole under Jessica's law. And that's thwarting the will of the 70% of Californians who voted for that. AB 109 is like a deferred maintenance program. If we don't repair the Golden Gate Bridge for 20 years, we'll save money, but when the bridge collapses, the costs will be horrific. If we neglect the criminal justice system by passing AB 109, the collapse of public safety will occur quickly within 1 or 2 years, and the overcrowding of the courts are just one aspect of that. To paraphrase a sage former member of this body, if AB 109 passes, tell your constituents to get a dog, buy a gun, and install an alarm system. The state of California will no longer protect you. I've done 2 out of 3, so I guess I need to get a dog. AB 109 is designed to shift responsibility for approximately 44,000 inmates from the state to the county. County jails are currently incarcerate about 78,000 people. As many as 38 counties already have population caps in place. There's simply not enough space to accommodate the shift. On March 9th, 2011, there were 13,969 parole violators who had been returned to the state prison system. Responsibility for incarcerating these parole violators would shift back to the counties. AB 109 would, in addition, shift jurisdiction for incarceration for as many as 35,000 convicted felons from the states to the counties. A shift of prisoners from state to county will result in more crowded jails, lead to population caps in counties where they are not already in place, and this in turn will lead to early release of more inmates. If the proposed realignment were fully implemented, 30,000 to 40,000 inmates would be displaced onto the streets of California. This comes as no surprise to the administration. There's no expectations that the counties will be able to incarcerate 35,000 felons to to the terms they currently are required by law. And for that reason, AB 109 creates a laundry list of alternatives to incarceration so that convicted felons who are now sent to prison will instead face community-based punishment, including alternatives like short-term flash incarceration, intensive community supervision, mandatory community service, work in lieu of confinement, and day reporting. AB 109 wagers the safety of millions of Californians on the half-baked premise of unproven rehabilitation programs that will somehow succeed where parents, teachers, judges, and both juvenile and adult correction systems have thus far failed. I'd urge a no vote.
Senator Hancock, you put your mic. All righty, Senator Anderson.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, make no mistake, this will allow early release of dangerous criminals out of our lockup and into our communities. The proposed post-release community supervision is less stringent than parole, and we've seen a breakdown over the years with parole, the parole system. Increasing the amount of good time credits for prisoners in what they can earn means that we'll let these criminals out earlier into our streets, going from 1/3 to half-time credit. If you're someone that was convicted of cruel or inhumane child abuse resulting in traumatic condition, this bill is for you. If you're someone who is convicted of cross-burning or defacing property with a swastika, this bill is for you. If you're someone that was convicted of knowingly selling firearms to criminal street gang members, this bill is for you. If you're someone that was convicted of the sale of controlled substances to a minor under 14 in a park, this bill is for you. If you're convicted of exploding a destructive device or committing arson near a church, a school, a healthcare facility, etc., this bill is for you. The top priority of government, of state government, should be the protection of our law-abiding citizens, all citizens, and this bill undercuts that protection. It's unfair to our law enforcement to overwhelm them by putting all these people onto the streets, knowing that there's no way that they're going to be able to fully respond. I agree with my colleague. I urge all Californians, if this bill passes, to get a dog, to buy a gun, and to put an alarm system in. Fortunately, we've done 2 out of those 3 things, and we'll be looking for a dog next. But not all Californians can afford that, and it's unfair to them. I ask for a no vote.
Senator Hancock.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to point out that most Californians cannot, in fact, afford our current system, which is recognized as one of the most expensive failures of a criminal justice and corrections system in the United States. 70% of our prisoners return to prison within 3 years, the majority of them for parole revocation, not for being convicted of a new crime. We are recycling the same people through the same institutions at $49,000 a year per prisoner and $250,000 a year per juvenile. This may allow people to claim to be tough on crime, but really we've been very, very tough on the taxpayer. We have an opportunity now to redirect the way we spend our dollars to improve outcomes, increase public safety, and use policies and practices that evaluations have shown work in other states. When we return people to prison for parole violation now, They go into the very expensive reception center process. They get the same assessments and tests that they got when they were cycled through the first time. They are usually in for only 45 to 90 days, enough time to disrupt whatever opportunities they may have had to find work or stability, but not enough time to be in a program. I would point out that the list of crimes that have been called, what law enforcement calls them is the nons, non-serious, non-violent, non-sexual, have been reviewed by law enforcement. A number of offenses were taken off the list at the request of law enforcement, and about 50 were added at the request of law enforcement. In fact, I need to really thank, at this point, the sheriffs, the chief probation officers, the police chiefs, and others who have collaborated every step of the way and understand that they will have safer communities as a result of this realignment. So members, if you want to continue an expensive failure, you don't need to vote for this bill. But if you want to take an opportunity to move California forward, I urge you to vote aye.
Senator LaMalfa.
Thank you, Madam President. We do have to address the costs in California. That's the motivation, I guess, what we're doing this particular bill for. Why don't we ever address the actual cost of why it is double in California, nearly double than of any other state? Why is it that we have a prisoner's Bill of Rights and a tort system that if they get into a scuffle in prison, that if they need a few stitches, that they're so afraid of being sued under the prison health care that they instead need 3 correctional officers to escort the particular client, as I've heard, down to the local hospital, sitting in the emergency room with all the other good people there so that they can not be sued over very small needs medically. Why aren't we working on the cost drivers that makes it so high? Instead, we think we're going to save money in California by putting them back out there on the streets and subjecting the people that become the victims of these repeat offenders. That's who we're not talking about here. Every time we put one of these folks out, we're giving them another chance to repeat again and again. It isn't working. I'd be interested to know if the officers that are supposedly signing off on this are okay with the fact that this is being degraded down to, for one of the examples, battery against a peace officer, firefighter, EMT, probation officer, etc. is one of the ones that now requires no prison time, but instead jail time with no follow-up on probation. Is that what we're after? Sending harmful matter, i.e. pornography, to a minor? These are things that need no supervision once these folks are out of our incarceration. No follow-up. The people of California that are watching this today, do they agree that this is going to make their streets safer? Or even in the end going to save them any money when it's one of their loved ones that's going to be assaulted or subject to this kind of matter? I think not. We're really moving in the wrong direction here. Why don't we address the cost drivers of what it takes to keep them incarcerated, to get them through the court system, those things of that nature. Instead, we're barking up the wrong tree because we want to coddle these people, because one of the provisions is that when they're no longer on parole but instead under probation, they might be possible voters. I would hate to think that's one of the motivations. I urge your no vote.